This speech is brought to the public. Imagine a world where a simple act could transform the very essence of who you are. A world where quiet rustling of pages could create ripples of change within your soul. That world exists, and I stand before you today to share my personal odyssey through it. It's a journey that altered not just my perspective, but my very self. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohd Adri Durrani, and today I feel very delighted to share my personal odyssey of how reading transformed me. 2 years ago, I was a very adult person, and I didn't know much about this broad world, and also I was a very judgmental person. Until one day, it was evening, and I just finished my school session. So I headed back to my dorm, which is just not too far away from my academic block. So when I arrived, I saw my friend. One of my friend, he was reading a book on his bed. Given that I wasn't particularly fond of reading, I couldn't help but to question him. Why do you always have a book with you? You're such a boring person. He replied, "It's the source of knowledge. That's why you are stupid." My state was taken aback, and I was speechless for a moment. That was the day when I started to reflect on myself. A week later, I decided to try reading a book. The first book that I read and purchased was about human psychology. Like many other psychology books, it contained chapters about cognitive and social influence. One part that stuck with me was the author's personal story. He had moved in various social circles throughout his life. As a university student, he often spent time with his friends after his classes, and this had been his routine for many years. One day, he was heading back from his university's hall. He glanced at a group of friends who were selling coffees and bread. But what bothered him was their earnestness in working, because it has always been his dream to have a circle like that. Hearing this story, I didn't fully grasp its meaning until I started hanging out with my highly intelligent friends. It was then that I realized I had squandered much of my time during my teenage years. In other words, I had spent far too long in my comfort zone, neglecting the important things that I could have accomplished had I ventured beyond it. The second lesson that I learned was about changing how we perceive our problems. Many people view that problem as just temporary burdens, coming and going in life. But if you ask me about my opinion, I would say these challenges serve as stepping stones to success. If a problem arises, would you allow it to define you, or would you actively seek a solution for that? Most people will say they will find a way through that. I once sat for an exam. I had a friend who was academically challenged, and he didn't prepare much about his exam and was constantly under stress. While many students might simply ignore the issue and be frustrated because of it, but I was surprised by how my friend handled it. First, he identified the cause of the stress so he could organize what he needed to do to overcome it. So he made a timetable and divided his study sessions into smaller parts to ensure that he could only focus on what's important. He was stressed out too much, but still, he focused on his mental health and physical well-being. And in the end, he managed to excel in his exam without neglecting his other passions. His approach has really taught me to handle these kind of challenges more effectively. The moral of this story really taught me to grow your personal growth and goal achievement is because one can set clear goals and work towards achieving them. Last of all, this book has made me a rational person in the way of thinking and of course actions. But before that, I would like to tell you something about rationality that most people get confused with. It's about using your brain to decide things and not just your feelings. In simple words, you have to do what you have to do while ignoring all your emotions. Some people think that feelings are more important than thinking, but I'm sorry to say, they are wrong. Let me give you an example. Waking up. People will find that it is very hard to wake up, and I can say most people will turn off their alarms and go back to sleep. Imagine you are a rational person, you would wake up normally while everybody else can. And having a rational mind will help you in personal growth, leading to better outcomes in various aspects of life. It's all about what you need and not about what you want. Through the magic of books, I've evolved bit by bit, understanding the world better and become a more positive person. They have shown me different viewpoints and helped me find joy in my surroundings, and taught me how to control my thoughts. In the end, they have sculpted me into a better version of myself, reminding me that within the pages lies the key to unlocking endless growth and boundless compassion.